All right, I'd like to call to order the York County Health and Environmental Protection Committee meeting on June 4th at 6 p.m. First order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the January 20th, 2026 meeting.
Motion to approve those minutes.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and does anybody?
Go ahead. I dare you.
I can't. I really can't. Do we have time constraints? Do we need to move any of the agenda items around so that we can get done before people have to leave?
No, sir, I don't
No?
think so. I think we're
Okay.
fine tonight.
Okay, well, can we get an update on the Parks Foundation for item number 2, please?
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here and appreciate the opportunity to come before you again and provide you an update. We have connected with, joined the National Association of Park Foundations. If you recall from our January meeting, we did speak of that. We appreciate the support for us to pursue that opportunity. And we've had various meetings with the executive director of that association and have gotten some great feedback into next steps of officially establishing a Parks Foundation. At which point we wanted to come back to this committee for some direction and input on kind of next steps. And so through our conversations, these were the top items that is recommended through the National Association of Park Foundations. And really the first key piece is we are, it is strongly, well, we have to have 3 founding board members to go along with the filing, the paperwork with the state. So after we reviewed everything, we've got some kind of draft bylaws and articles of incorporation kind of ready, but the first step is we actually have to establish and list those members in the filings for the nonprofit. And so once we do that, establish those board members, and file that paperwork and request our EIN, we then can move to that next step of establishing those articles of incorporation and the foundation bylaws. And then finally, we will want to establish some sort of financial plan. So, right, we've got the Parks Foundation, we've done the established, we've got the paperwork filed, we've got our bylaws ready. But what do we want to do with funds? We're going to have, annual fees. We also have fees that are associated with filing that paperwork with the state. So we may want to consider some sort of seeding the foundation initially to help cover those upfront costs. And also, and I put this on here because if we're moving to develop a Parks Foundation, we want to design a logo, right? That should be one of the first things we do to start to get our name out and establish that vision. And and I think what we're here today for is to answer questions, get feedback, and truthfully, I think that we're to a place where, if supported by this committee, we would be looking for, if you're wanting to establish a foundation, maybe to take this back to full council for that approval. And I will say this too, I'm sorry, with the establishing 3 board members, that is not a task of council. It has been strongly encouraged and advised that we strategically establish those 3 board members that may have, again, strategically
Expertise in certain areas.
in certain
CPA.
areas to help us really get the foundation off the ground. So we may want a financial person. We may want somebody that's tied to the public parks and recreation community. And then we probably want somebody that has a fundraising background, someone that knows how to develop annual giving, knows how to put on fundraising events to raise money for said projects. So I think too, when we can talk more about this or answer questions, but it was really, we were advised and the information we were provided was there can really be a conflict of interest between the two. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that's just where we would want that some feedback, and if we were wanting to actually pursue establishing the foundation, I think the next steps, would be to probably take it back to council. And then, Tom, I don't know if I maybe misspoke or you had any
No,
other questions?
You really stole my thunder.
Okay.
I guess maybe some thought or feedback needs to be considered as to how, if it rises to the level of council, we want to delegate making the appointments. I think you and I have talked, possibly it could be the county manager, possibly it could be you. But I think we want to make sure that nuance isn't ignored by council, but better yet, endorsed by council.
Okay?
Is there just articles of incorporation, bylaws, these type of things, you're saying they shouldn't be, the founding board member shouldn't be tied to council necessarily. Is this a standalone thing that's kind of separate from the county, and is there anything else similar to it that we could use that's an example, just so that we kind of understand it a little bit better?
Yeah, and I certainly will not speak to any legalities, to it. And this, obviously, once we start to gain some momentum, this would certainly go through the county attorney's office. But from speaking with other colleagues, they really kind of run in tandem. There's a partnership, but it is a separate entity. And almost all the ones that are in the state of South Carolina, they have a staff liaison that is tied to that foundation. So we, as a staff, can still make recommendations. We want to be able to provide that project list. But in the conversations with this executive director of the National Association of Park Foundations, that's where you got to be strategic in those board members. They've got to understand the vision and the purpose of this foundation. And we have to establish that in the bylaws, in the mission of the foundation, and then that staff liaison could help communicate those county needs. But then the foundation is who are the ones that are generating the funds and having fundraising events and donors that may want to donate to a specific project. And so it really separates the two.
So is this
Does that make
more like
sense?
I'm gonna be simplistic with it, more like the Regional Chamber of Commerce or Visit York County, one of those, or it's not, what's one that Andy Clinton's over?
Let's visit your
Visit York
county.
County, right? I couldn't remember the name change.
I don't
Is it
think-
something like
It-
that kind of setup, or is
No,
it more?
so
governmental?
it depends on the purpose, and I think that's part of us establishing the Parks Foundation. What do we want the Parks Foundation to do? What do we want it to be? So, for example, the Charleston County Recreation Commission, they have a Charleston County Parks Foundation. They only generate revenue or raise funds to go towards programs. So one of their biggest programs is swim lessons. And they hang their hat high on that, on teaching kids how to swim and, bringing these portable pools everywhere in Charleston, so on and so forth. So they don't use those funds for capital projects. So every foundation is set up and is unique to their community and what the community needs are. And it's really like a 501c3 arm. It's a fundraising arm, but considered a separate organization, I guess,
Yeah, it's
from the county.
It's clearly not destination marketing. I think.
Well, no, I didn't mean the same type of,
Yeah.
I'm saying those are independent.
Yes. Let me share right quick. So I've served on a number of foundations.
Right.
And they're all set up a little differently, but I think what they're trying to achieve is an arm's length distance from the foundation, so there's no control.
Right.
There's no oversight.
Right.
That's why you have your independent party.
Yeah.
But I will say, I've sat on foundations that they house the foundation in the entity, like a college university may have a foundation that is seated physically on the property, but their staff is separate from, they have, their benefits are independent of state benefits, so they're truly independent. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to eliminate conflict of interest.
Right.
And then the purpose of the foundation there could be a lot of different purposes. You and your wife decide that when you pass, you're gonna leave your property, you got 100 acres, you're gonna leave 100 acres to the Parks Foundation, because you don't have children.
Right.
So there's many different ways, deferred gifts, planned gifts, gifts to support something that's happening right now. It could be, an avid mountain biker that wants to contribute to more trails in our parks in York County,
But it's not a,
horse trails.
it's not a county commission or any of those type of,
No.
not, okay.
No. And then sometimes, kind of like the Rock Hill School District Foundation, we could have an account, we could be under them if we chose to. That's already established. We could house our money in there and be our own foundation through them. So that happens too. You have these group foundations that you can be a part of. That's why I was asking the question before about York County establishing a foundation and then having a parks foundation, having a economic development foundation, whatever we want to have under one roof. But either way, there is great purpose in having a foundation. The foundation can go after grants, right, to help
Right.
fund the expenses of our parks and recreation needs. I don't know if that helps you. But
Yeah, and I would just add to that, like the Charleston County, I mean, there is a staff member, to your point. I think there might be one, full-time, and then there may be a part-time that do nothing but prepare things for that board to make decisions. They're not decision makers, but they're the liaison, they're the link between the department and the day-to-day operations, the capital and all that. They're that link to that board that decides what they want to fundraise for, what priorities are, what's coming down the pipeline. I think a lot of it goes to having a plan. We've talked about a future plan. If we know that we've got this project list with the capital improvement plan, you can earmark those dollars. You know ahead of time what the county's vision is and the plan is, and we want to make sure that that's in alignment. So that can still happen as we write the bylaws. It's not like, and I don't know if maybe this is what you're getting at, it's not like they'll be rogue.
Well,
Per se.
that's where first is, we talked about the seed money to get them started. I guess that would go for a couple years. And then they would be independent, funded, hopefully self-funded. But then let's say a bad actor got on there and, they're generating all these funds and doing stuff, and then they get on there and go, yeah, we're not tied to you. We're just gonna go off and do our own parks, something, and just run off.
I think from what I've gathered and talking with the executive director of the National Association of Parks Foundations and talking with other colleagues, I think that you include all that in your bylaws and your articles to prevent that from happening. And then again, the staff person, again, in a lot of these other cases I've talked about, the foundation's actually not paying for that employee, that staff liaison.
Right.
That's being paid for by the county. So, you want to have limited expenses with the foundation so that you can really use those dollars for meaningful things or projects.
Okay.
And I think as far as the bylaws are concerned, in some organizations like that, your bylaws often simply refer to the structure and the powers, but I think good bylaws should also include very intentional purpose and intent statements. I think if that is sort of the motto or the governing aura, that something like that should be put in the bylaws, and that helps self-governance be sustainable and prevent roguism, if you will. And I think if the three, or I guess there may not just be a limit to three, or are there?
No, so we just have to, in order to file the paperwork, we have to list 3 founding board members. Minimum. Then once that gets started, we can, obviously educate these 3 board members. Through the bylaws, you can establish how many you want on the board. And he recommended, I believe it was anywhere from like 5 to 13 board members. And so obviously they would have rotating terms and all that good stuff so that you don't have everybody rolling off at at the same time. So, but yeah.
Typically, when you're creating the board, you're identifying what your needs are, like you have a fundraising arm that you mentioned a second ago. You maybe have a grants arm. So you find people in the community that have experience in those areas, and that's who you ask to join.
Yeah. That, and, you know, my recommendation would be, I mentioned it before, you're going to want somebody with probably a financial background. You're going to want somebody that knows how to fundraise, knows how to do annual giving, that has that experience. And then, somebody that's tied to a public parks and recreation community that understands parks, the value of parks, so on and so forth. And then it'd be helpful if they're all three somewhat tied heavily within their community, right? Because we got to get the word out, and so.
So many different areas, social media.
Yeah, and then I think there was one other thing that I really took away, not so much through our meetings with the National Association of Parks Foundations, but colleagues throughout the state. The trend is, and Mecklenburg County spoke on this at one of the recent conferences, and they kind of did a revamp of their Parks Foundation, is they had a long list of like their purpose. And they realized that it was hard to tackle those things because they just had such a long list. And so we really do want to be precise and like, again, Charleston County is a prime example. When they did a whole kind of rebrand and revamp of their Parks Foundation, they recognized and decided that they wanted to spend those dollars, directly to the citizens and the participants with those programs, especially for those that are in, underprivileged areas. So they made that decision, and that's solely what they do. Not every foundation's like that, but again, you cater and narrow down what you really want to be, what we want to accomplish, and then go out and do. You have too long of a list, and it's going to be hard.
Who would establish that, the purpose?
I mean, essentially that could be derived from staff. Once we get the founding board members, I see that to be more collaborative too at that point, because we won't necessarily establish the articles of incorporation and bylaws until after we've, developed or created those founding board members and filed our paperwork. So there it could be somewhat of a collaborative effort, but we certainly want to speak into what we need, right, from the foundation, and go from there. And again, these long-standing foundations, like throughout the state, I mean, they've been in existence for 20 years. Every so many years, similar to what we do here, going through a strategic plan or going through like updating a master plan, you do that every so many years. I served on our state parks association board. That's a nonprofit. We went through that exercise and established a plan 5 years ago. They're getting ready. I'm off the board now, but in the next year, they're going to be looking to update that plan. We know what are our needs, what are the trends, to meet the mission of that association. So that's another piece of it, is establishing the mission of the foundation.
I hate to say this, and the reason I ask all these questions is because current council is very micromanaging, and I'm trying to figure out how we're going to establish this and say, council, we want to do this, but council, we don't want you doing this.
But that's part of the bylaws to protect you against
Well, I
that.
know, but we gotta
I knew that's what you were saying.
We got to get
Just
to
had
that first
I'm
part
with you.
first. I
Yeah.
mean, we can't even get that far. I
Right.
don't know.
I
I mean,
understand.
I don't know. So what would be you've got this 1, 2, 3 laid out, but. Would full council have to vote on this, or would we get staff to work on
The structure.
some structure of the plan, and then they come back and give it to us, and then we present it, then it goes to council for the.
Yeah. How deep do
Whole
you want us to go?
council-
For example, I'm sitting there thinking too, since we're a county, you take your 4 largest cities maybe even 5, I don't know, but because we have 9 municipalities here in York County, but you take those areas and you make sure each one's represented by someone with a specialty, whether it be investments or it's accounting or whatever it might be, you find people all over the county, so you engage the county in this foundation.
Sure.
Not just from one centralized area,
Sure.
right? So you have proper representation. So the question is, do you want to, I hear you asking is, do y'all want to go deeper? Or would you rather us focus on these three areas, high level, and allow you all discretion over how to put the details together under it? Because quite honestly, you're not recreating the wheel. You're doing exactly what's happened in the National Association of Park Foundations. Everybody here in South Carolina that has a foundation, you're basically setting it up just like they do.
Yeah.
And then you've got federal guidelines, kind of like us housing the money for impact fees. The county
Right.
does the accounting for impact fees just to make sure that it's being spent properly or reimbursed properly.
It's not supposed to be that way, but anyway, that's a different story.
But the point is, the school district doesn't manage their own funds. Therefore, the county council would
It's a fluke
manage.
in the law.
Yeah.
Anyway.
but that's
Here's
what
what I would
foundations
say is I kind of put this 1, 2, 3 because staff can't move forward until I think we have support to actually file the paperwork, that we get approval to actually file the paperwork, and then knowing, just fully disclosing that we have to have 3 founding board members in the paperwork when we file.
Can I
So-
say this? I personally, Andy, what I personally think they should do, if we're on board with setting up the foundation, which I think we should, I think that they probably ought to meet with each council member one-on-one to go over this, make sure they understand it, answer their questions, then come before council and present what they're presenting to us. And then we can discuss it and, hopefully approve it.
Well, I'm wondering, I get, so you said Charleston County has a foundation, right? And maybe this is part of, after we finish here, is actually getting into the details with them, like, how did y'all approach council? Did the whole council, were they on board with this? Was it a certain group that started this, that got them, how did they
So-
navigate the approval process? Or another, it doesn't have to be, them in particular, but
Right.
that was just one of the examples.
Yeah, they established it years and years ago, but I know that they have gone through their trials and tribulations, so I can certainly reach out to them and see. And just to be clear, they are a special purpose district, meaning they have a board of commissioners. So I'm sure that they're still, they still probably have to go through some approval process, so I can still reach out to them, but it is slightly different in that they're a special purpose
A
district.
Special purpose district. Depends on when they were formed, because before home rule, they were one thing, and then after, they were something totally different.
Is there another county in South Carolina that you find?
I can
that
find
they-
another county. I mean, I know Rock Hill has one, but I could find another county. Irmo Chapin's coming to mind, but they're also a special purpose district. I'm not sure if Greenville County
That's what I was gonna ask.
has one, and possibly Spartanburg does too. But I don't know if it's county or city, so that can be some of my homework.
Do we need a special purpose district if that's how other?
Special
places-
purpose districts are established by the governor.
Well,
So a lot of them have dwindled down. So like Greenville County used to be a
Right.
special purpose district. They're no longer, because you have to be self-sufficient if you're a special purpose
I thought
district.
after home rule, counties could establish special purpose districts. Prior to home rule, they were established by the legislatures.
I'm not
Because
sure.
I work for a special purpose district, so
Okay.
I know the pre-home rule portion, but I don't
Okay.
know the rules for after that. I do know that there's some that we've been talking about, but I don't know how they exactly are established afterwards.
Seed money, how much seed money do you think you're gonna need?
Well, I mean, it's not as super expensive to file all our paperwork, and I would say probably 10,000, 10 to 20, and that's if you're paying someone to develop a logo.
You probably need to put a performer together too for that, because
Okay.
that'll come up. Where's the money coming from?
agree, other than the,
Counties can. Okay.
other than the funding from council,
For special tax districts.
it sounds
Yes,
like
this is a special.
they could run off and create this thing
Without us,
without us.
Special purpose versus special tax.
not sure.
And then, but then you wouldn't be, let's just say council didn't want to do it. They could run off and do this thing because there's still nothing really tied to it.
So your question is,
And then we
can you
have
all accomplish this
discretion,
without us?
we have discretionary funds if the members that wanted
Yes.
funded it,
You know, you got the county, but they're completely
you
separate.
could make this thing work. Listen, right now, I don't have any idea, and this came from this committee, it started in here and not from the rest of council. I don't know where they're at with it.
Right. Can you establish a foundation without consent from council?
I don't know that question, or the answer to that question.
I'm sorry, what was?
Can you start a foundation like this without the consent of council?
Broad question.
In order for a county to establish a parks foundation, can they do it independent of county council approving it?
The county would want to have county council's approval to do that.
Why? Why is it necessary?
Well, I think county council is the body who sets the policy, the purposes, the mission, and the overview of the county.
Yeah, but the foundation operates separately really from the entity it may be supporting, which would be the parks division of the county.
Yes, so to the extent anyone wanted to create a 501c3, they certainly are empowered to do that. But I don't know what the county's role in that would be absent approval from county council.
The only hiccup I see in it would be whether you could do it during working hours or not. That would be the major hangup on it.
Well, your staff usually is independent of the entity it's supporting. Or at
But,
least
but,
looks that
but
way.
finding the first three
Right.
members
Yeah.
and getting that and discussing it, and after that, the coordination portion, I think that's kind of covered under their job titles already, but it's that initial time that you would spend trying to find people for the board.
You know, one
And
thing that
filling
might
out the
be important,
paperwork.
what you were saying a minute ago, what may be important is to find out from someone that has set one of these up in the last 5 years, what do the first 5 years look like? How much money's needed to set it up? How much money is needed to fund the individual?
I don't have a county for that, but I do have a town of Somerville.
Yeah.
I think in the last 5 years established their Parks Foundation, so.
Then I think you need to create a pro forma, basically, showing what is this going to look like until it becomes independent? And how much is it year after year?
Yeah, and we had a similar conversation with the National Association of Parks Foundations, and those first few years are slow. And you don't, he even mentioned like you don't need a lot of money. You gotta pay to file your paperwork. If we had a substantial amount of money, you gotta file your tax, you gotta file all that every year. And then, if you're wanting to develop a logo and there's things, setup cost, that would really be your only cost associated with establishing the foundation, really probably in the first 5 years. Because you're gonna have to bring awareness, get community involvement, set your priorities, your purpose, that kind of thing.
I think the more documentation support you have, going to talk to council members and asking us publicly to support this is to your advantage.
Okay.
Which is, I think, what Andy's saying.
And I think they'll be in support of doing this. The dollar figure, or any dollars of it, I think may be the
Yeah.
ultimate hangup.
Yeah.
But I don't have any idea.
Yeah, I think
For
you need the
sure.
runway of, when it starts, where do you reach financial independence, and what does it take to do that? I mean, how did they do that? They created grants, they got a gift, whatever you're doing. They do a fundraising They have mountain biking they use their parks to generate revenue somehow. So, I don't know, I think you need to find out some of that stuff.
Okay.
Kind of take it back to when I was on H-Tax, and our goal was to help people become independent from asking us for money. If they did ever come back, it was for a one-time ask. Something to help them further their mission. But I'd also would think you need to know, I can think of local foundations, how much the entity that's benefiting from the foundation, how much do they commit financially back to the foundation? The staff expense is gonna be an expense, and it's an annual expense, along with everything else that goes along with running a business.
Or maybe there's no staff, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it,
It may not be.
In these other cases, there is a staff member that's already employed with the agency that is that liaison, that link to the foundation and the board.
Yeah. I think you gotta lay all that out too, though. Just so there are
Excuse
no
me.
unanswered questions, or very few unanswered questions, especially around expense. How do you create your revenue? How do you cover your expenses? What are the expenses, short and long term?
Well, and keep in mind too, yes, I think establishing it, but once you establish it, that's what the work of those board members are gonna be there for,
Right.
is to develop that financial plan.
Yeah.
How are they gonna raise funds to pay for whatever we're gonna do?
Right.
You know, or we're more advocacy to begin with, or more awareness, and then we set our projects, or we set our programs that we're wanting to raise funds for. Once we establish that purpose, then that board gets to working. That's a working board. It's not all on the staff to do it. The staff is there to provide input, share strategic plans, share visions to make sure that we're in alignment. But it's ultimately the work of that board to establish a lot of that with our help, but they're leading that charge.
Didn't Rock Hill PRT set up a foundation which helped fund Miracle Park and?
They did, and they contributed to that. They contribute to other things. Previously, when I was in Lancaster County, I actually met with them and learned kind of some of the dynamics of those. And now that was, gosh, probably 6 years ago now. But they do. They have a foundation, and they have a staff member that is a liaison with that foundation. And then Miracle Park has its own foundation too. So there are separate foundations there.
well, we could use the small business initiative of the ED committee
There are a lot of things we could do with that money.
to get this started. I mean, I don't know that a foundation counts as a small business, but I'm just asking questions out here. Man, I think we can get this going. I think if it came down to just us two, we could get this thing moving.
Are you trying to charge me up tonight? Is that what you're
I'm
doing?
not. I'm just covering all the bases to ask the questions so that there's no surprises.
I'm with you. What do you see as the next steps, if you don't mind?
So, well, and I guess what I've heard is, I don't know if we need to come back to this committee before then going to council, but really identifying the amount of money needed to seed the foundation. And then a suggestion on where that would come from. Talk to other counties, hopefully, in particular. I know a lot of municipalities that have parks foundations, on how they appointed their initial members. And then what does those first 5 years look like? That's kind of the feedback I've gotten as homework. Am I missing anything there? And then I think the question would be, does this committee need that information before then referring it back to, or taking it back to full council?
And as far as seed money, by the way, I think that, I don't know how far we can go in being involved with this, but I think there are employers that exist here in York County now that would provide the seed money for this. I know for a fact of 2.
Well then,
So it wouldn't have to come from council, it wouldn't have to come from the ED fund.
I appreciate you saying that on camera.
Yeah.
It just
well,
gives reason for
It is.
it not to be funded.
It is what it
I
is.
know.
And that does tie into economic development in some respect
It
because
does.
of our Trails Initiative
Mhm.
and tying the employers that come into York County that are getting incentive money, investing some of that money after the fact, some of their money after the fact into our infrastructure, specifically trails.
I'll also ask, especially town of Somerville, who I know established theirs within the last 5 years, how did they seed? How did they initially seed? If it came from the town or if they had a donor
Yeah.
that established them, I'll at least find that out as well, just to provide that information.
So do you want to come back? You want me to
I
come
think it
back
needs to at least come back so
Yeah,
we
come
can.
back one time at least.
Yeah, so we can say we at least vetted it and asked about it.
Yeah, I do think it's important, moving forward on council, that when we have something come up like this, that you over-communicate it to each council member. And then I think you need to come in and present it publicly, personally.
It's a separate thing, but yeah, it's very awkward how this, yeah, anyway. That's a council-related
I
thing
think
and not
that's
a,
credible advice.
So,
Thank
I
you.
may be getting ahead of the rest of the presentation, but I think I would be able to turn this back around within a month if that's
Okay? We can
something
say-
that you guys would like to do. I'll just work with
Absolutely.
Karen on maybe we'll wait till after the fourth holiday, get through the holiday and go from there sometime in July.
That's fine.
Does that work?
We
Okay.
can pin a time down tonight and then check and see if it's okay with Debbie, so we can get it on our calendars.
Well,
Yep. Okay. Great. Well, any other questions on Parks Foundation?
No?
I appreciate y'all's feedback. So I think the next item on the agenda was to just provide an update on park operations, and a capital projects update. So I'll, get through this pretty quickly, even though I'm, very passionate about what we have going on. Just want to share and highlight some things. Over really the past fiscal year, we've held nearly 30 events across all of our parks and established several new events. Examples are Paws in the Park at Allison Creek, Christmas in Lake Wiley, Fall Fest was at Allison Creek. So very proud of that staff that have been creative and utilized, found partners in the community and ways to collaborate to bring some events and to the community. We've also established some new programs. Bird walks, they are getting very popular at Catawba Bend. We've got some very passionate staff all across our department, very creative staff. Several of them of our parks, Ebenezer and Allison Creek in particular, have established scavenger hunts. You may have seen those come up on social media. They do those during spring breaks and kickoff of summer, so it's really engaging with the public, and you'd be surprised of how many people actually come out for that.
Interesting.
And then also, we're expanding pickleball leagues and tournaments. So you may have also seen that on social media. We used to only do one. It was a toy drive tournament in December, and we had a spring one. We're getting ready to have another one in July. So staff's doing a really great job of trying to offer these events and additional programs within the means that we have now.
Can I suggest that you share some of this with Visit York County, with Andy Clinton and his staff?
Sure.
Because you mentioned the scavenger hunt, we were just talking about this with our office. I did one of these in Greenville recently, and I didn't know we offered this here.
Okay.
But this will be a great team-building event for businesses,
Yeah.
depending on what it is. If it's
Yeah.
like the one I did in Greenville, it was well done. With
Right.
an app.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah, I'll be
neat.
happy to share that with
Very
him.
engaging, yeah.
And just some key partnerships. Again, our staff has, I have charged them with being creative, right? And we can create programs with dime budgets, and really be impactful with our community. And so you probably have seen we've had some partnerships with U.S. Coast Guard, DNR to do boat safety drop-ins at both of the parks on Lake Wiley. We've partnered with U.S. Fish and Wildlife to do some restoration out at Catawba Bend. We've also partnered with Catawba Nation on the River Cane project. We've recently partnered with Lake Wiley High School cross country. They didn't have a home course. They approached us to potentially use Allison Creek. We've got a perfect trail there for them to utilize for their cross country event. So we're happy to kind of be the home of their practice, and we'll host some of their meets this fall. And really looking forward to that partnership. And this, again, we're activating our parks in a different way. So we're attracting folks, and I just was in communication with their coach today that a lot of their students or families hadn't been to Allison Creek Park yet. So we're exposing them to the park that wouldn't have otherwise maybe found it. And then York County Animal Services, they bring the dogs out to several of our events to be adopted. And so, again, just finding ways to link together, collaborate, and partner together to bring impactful programs or events. Accomplishments, I just want to share some of these. Training and certification highlights, we very, very much appreciate, I do, the support of our training budgets. I appreciate the manager's office supporting this as well, because it's really, it impacts our visitors. It impacts the people that we connect with on a daily basis to ensure that our staff are properly trained, and not just connected with the public, but from a safety aspect as well. So I just want to share some of these with you. We had 11 staff complete their chainsaw certification. So we're now up to 21 of our 38 full-time staff that have completed the chainsaw training. We have 2 staff that recently got their National Certified Parks and Recreation Professional certificate. So we have 5 total staff that have their CPRP. We have 4 that have completed a pesticides license. We've got 1 that's completed the National Certified Interpretive Guide, which is for our ranger positions. We've got 1 staff member that completed their Certified Playground Safety Inspector, which is a national certification and is very hard. A lot of people do not pass it on the first time, and he did. We've had 18 staff complete wilderness first aid. As you know, our parks some of them are remote, and so we want to have a higher caliber training for that. We've got 3 staff that are serving on SCRPA, our state association board or committee. We've got 1 in the state leadership class right now, and we have 3 graduates of that program that are employed with us now. So I can't speak enough to. We've had the budget, the funding, to support it, and we've been able to get staff the training that they need.
Can y'all get that put up on social media? I would love to share that information
Sure.
with the public,
Sure.
at least on my page and on the York County page also, about the certifications and the good trainings and everything that the Parks Department. And truly, I would like this, not just for them, but any certifications, all of that stuff, as they do them in any department. I would like to
Sure.
highlight that.
What we can do, I will actually be coming to you guys. I'd like to propose July is Parks and Recreation Month. It's
Okay.
recognized with the National Parks and Recreation Association, and so I'd like to have a proclamation to us adopt July as Parks and Recreation Month, and so maybe that's a great opportunity to
Absolutely.
highlight staff and make note of their certifications they've received.
I have two, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, are we teeing that up for the next council meeting, is that correct?
It is. I owe you some more info on that, but yes. I think so.
2 things. Do we charge for the scavenger hunt?
We do not.
All right, I was texting somebody. I'm gonna get you the name of the company in Greenville if you want to see what they do. It's
Sure,
pretty impressive.
absolutely.
'Cause, I mean, it's a for-profit. They generate money doing this, and
Okay.
I think when you think about the businesses in York County that could come out and learn more about York County by participating in the scavenger hunt and also bonding with their staff, it's important. Number 2, given the nature of our last 2 budgets, it's got me thinking about how do we create revenue that we've never thought about creating before. So mountain biking is an example. I had heard that, I don't know which schools, might be Fort Mill, probably because of the Springs Greenway, had established a mountain biking club.
Okay.
And I'd heard another one of the school districts was looking to do the same thing. My point of sharing this is that if we went to the 4 school districts and talked about taking Catawba Bend, and this becomes their home mountain bike course, then maybe they have access to monies, the 4 of them, to help us finish out that trail. And then we can use that money for something else, but it becomes their home course. Not just for mountain biking, but for their cross-country, because you've already hosted some things out there anyway. So, anyway,
Okay.
I would want to, I'm just one council member, but that's more of a citizen saying, I'd like to see you look into whether the school districts would be interested in helping finish this trail out the way they would want it, the miles that they need, That could be a really strong partnership.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Continuing on just with accomplishments, we developed a career ladder for our ranger staff. With the establishment of our senior ranger positions and Ranger 2, we were having a lot of turnover. And so once we built that capacity within our organization, we developed with partnering with Human Resources a career ladder to, again, get them the training they need to be ready for when a promotion opportunity comes about. And we've been able to retain that staff. So it's doing what we intended to do. The queuing software is a huge success at Ebenezer Park. So thank you for your support. With that queuing software, we're able to get people in quick. We're able to prioritize county residents over out-of-county residents. So it's been a huge success.
Was that last year that got implemented?
It was actually 2 years, like we didn't get a full summer using it before we closed for renovations.
Right.
So really, well, actually, yes, last summer when we
Yeah.
reopened, it was the full summer that we had
Right.
with it. Yes.
And it's working?
Oh,
'Cause I
gosh,
haven't heard
it's-
any complaints. I mean,
It's great, because we're able, and then with the development of once we built the turnaround, we're able to turn cars around, to get in the queue, and really, we've not had any bad feedback from the public either, on it. So, to me, that was a huge win, us being able to have that queuing software.
That's excellent. I appreciate it.
Other accomplishments, obviously, is getting Catawba Bend open a few months back, and then we're working hard to get Worth Mountain open and Wood End Park in the coming months. So again, just really excited to offer more to our residents. And then something else that we've been working strong on, really staff's been working strong on this, and as part of our departmental strategic plan is developing department policy and operating manual that meets CAPRA standards, which is the Commission for Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies, and that is through NRPA. So if at one day I would like to pursue our agency being an accredited agency with the National Parks Association, and so when we developed our department policy and operating manual, we formatted it to meet those standards, so we wouldn't have to go back and redo that. So staff spent a lot of time on making sure that it would be in compliance with their standards. So it was a huge endeavor, and staff did a great job with that. And then opportunities, we're implementing and continuing to explore sponsorship opportunities to help offset some costs. For example, finding sponsors for our movies in the park, or finding sponsors for our concerts in the park to help offset those costs. And part of our departmental strategic plan is continuing to explore those sponsorship opportunities, to your point of bringing in revenue.
Concerts in the park, at which locations?
Well, we currently have them at Ebenezer and Field Day. And then we do have live music at the market events for at the Goat Farm.
Is Visit York County promoting this?
I think they do. They
be
see our
okay.
stuff. I'll double check, but Andy and them get a hold of our stuff and they push it out. It's usually on their Thursday. I don't know if you guys get that or have that subscription, but every Thursday they send out an email to subscribers on what's happening in York County. So, yeah, they.
I don't
well
check it. I
attended?
depend on it on social media.
It depends. Sometimes it depends on the band, truthfully. And we try to rotate, different bands. But we usually can see anywhere from 150 to 300 attendees.
So mostly from the park, people that are in the park are coming to the concert.
Yeah, I mean, like I went out to the one a couple weeks ago at Ebenezer, and it was the Surfside Band. I might have the whole name wrong, but they're a beach music band,
Yeah.
and you should have seen the lawn was full.
Wow.
They have a
Had
big
no
following. We also had Greg Parrish, who also has a huge following, and there was a lot of people out for that night as well. And I would say, I mean, you have a mix. You have campers that are coming down and enjoying that event, and these are free events. We want them to be community. We want to remove barriers, and so. But yeah, a lot of them are coming to the park for that particular reason.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Just other opportunities, community engagement. Staff participated in the Tourism Week. They had a big day at the I-77 Welcome Center, so there were a lot of vendors related to tourism that were there, and we had a booth there and are starting to try and make a presence as long as we're able and we have the staff and the resources to do so. So we hope to continue that community engagement, and we intend this December to try and be in a few parades. We won't be able to be in all of them. There is, entry fee associated with them, but we will rotate, just again to try and get our name out there. And then we're also working on developing various surveys so that we can capture visitor experience. We have a few right now, and it's part of our strategic plan, but staff's working really hard on developing those surveys so that we can really capture that feedback. I mean, it could be to lack of customer service. It could be shouldn't be our facilities anymore because we've upgraded all of them. But it could be cleanliness, whatever. We want to know that so that we can provide a better experience. So staff's working hard on that as well. Park visitation data. I just wanted to share this with you guys. You'll see here, and just really the notable thing, Ebenezer Park, in-county residents. A lot of people talk about county residents can't get into our park. The numbers are right there of how many year to date, so that was starting July of last year, of how many county residents have entered our park. So it's 48,000, and then 18 from out of county. I feel sure that the queuing software is helping with that when we run it. We only run the queuing software when we're at capacity. But that queuing software will prioritize a county resident over a non-county if they're in the queue.
Are people still complaining about county residents can't get in?
I've not heard it over the last year,
Right.
but I just didn't know if you had. Here's numbers.
And before that, I think some of it was for the campground, and I'm sure that didn't change. But yeah, I haven't heard any complaints about it. It's really, since it's open and got the queuing software.
Yeah.
That's good.
Day use, you see that there with our in-county versus out-of-county there. Catawba Bend, I think we've started off really well. We're averaging probably about 1,000, a little over 1,000 a month, and only being open 4 days a week. So we're getting a lot but mostly it is county residents.
What are they doing though, since we really don't have much?
They're walking the trails, and I'll be honest, I mean, all of our staff is great, but that Catawba Bend staff, they are so passionate. Again, they're looking for creative ways to offer pop-up programs that can help draw and activate the spaces with what they have. So they're doing the bird walks. They're having turtle scavenger hunts. They're looking ways to connect with the citizens that are there, and I think they're enjoying the space and the serenity of that property. And we've recently opened up some more trails, more mileage, so that also could be drawing more folks there too.
So how many miles of trails, walking trails do we have right now?
I think it's right around 3 miles.
Okay.
So we lost a section, and I'm gonna talk about this in our capital update, but they started clearing for the Greenway Trail. So we lost kind of that whole section, and we had a bottom section that wasn't really ready to open, but staff worked within like a week and a half and got that section open. For them to have, so they'd have more than like a mile to walk.
Okay.
So they've got a good little loop and back, and they're educating folks on how long it'll take them to do the full loop, or here's a half loop if that's all you have time for. So they're doing a really great job of engaging with the visitors.
And if, you can't let campers stay out there right now, even if they were independent. They just-
Campers?
Campers, yeah.
Mm-mm, we don't have any set up for them right now. Mm-mm.
None whatsoever.
And then just field day pickleball. We established the membership program, and so in the tax district, or residents that live in the tax district, we have 246 that are members, and then we have 25 that are out of tax district. So I also recall my first few years here, there were complaints about how the residents can't ever get on the courts. That's one of the reasons we established the membership once the additional 6 courts were built, to give folks that opportunity to reserve and schedule their time, and then we still have 6 open courts. So I will say they're full the peak times of the day, and for a good bit of the day. So
That's great.
How did, it didn't come up during the budget, and I meant to find out during one of the budget workshops. How did the revision of the park fees affect your revenue?
I don't have that number
I mean,
on me,
was
but
it a, I mean, you would know if it was a visible, like you could tell a big difference or not. I mean, did it?
Well, I mean-
Did it hurt the budget? Did it hurt your?
I mean, of course, it did impact the budget.
Right.
I mean, you can take these in-county numbers, and if you recall what our fee was, and do the math. If you wanted that number, I could certainly
I
develop
was
that,
just curious.
anticipate that.
If it was a huge, I see that your little note over here says we actually have less in-county people, but a big increase on out-of-county at Allison Creek.
At Allison Creek. Yeah, and I think that's mainly boat access. Folks coming from Gastonia and the south portion of North Carolina coming in and using Allison Creek to access Lake Wiley.
Right.
But yeah, I called staff because I was like, these numbers are like double what they were the previous year, and they're like, these are right. So, yeah.
Okay. Another just side thing.
Sure.
How did Ebenezer fare through the drought? I know Allison Creek had to completely close for the boat ramps. How did Ebenezer fare?
Ebenezer, we stayed open.
Really?
We were very close. Ebenezer ramps are all the same level. Allison Creek's vary. And so also too, I think with Allison Creek being back in that cove, it also impacts it a little bit more than it does at Ebenezer. But we were able to keep all three open at Ebenezer.
I didn't hear any problems over there, but I was just seeing how it was.
Okay. I'll move into the capital projects update, and I'll try to run through this pretty quick. Mountain bike trail project, we're progressing really well with that. We've got approximately 10 miles of trail with different routes based on skill level, which is going to be awesome. So those that are, again, wanting to get into mountain bike, there's going to be beginner courses, intermediate, and your advanced level. I just want to remind you that this project's supported by, we've received a grant, LWCF grant for that in the amount of $500,000, and also the Recreation Trails Program grant in the amount of 80. It was 100,000, 80-20 split. So final completion is slated to be September for that project. They may finish early, but that's what's the contract states.
How many miles of trails are cut thus far?
I would say most of them are cut. They're doing a lot of just some finish work and punch list items, but I would say majority of them are complete.
Okay.
Disc golf course is ongoing. The design is complete, and they have just recently started construction, tree, and when I say construction, it's really the tree and debris clearing in certain areas that it's needed to put tee boxes and for the layout of their course. We've been really pleased with that, and I think that community, that user group is going to be really happy with the end result. Just to keep in mind, we'll have an 18-hole championship course, and then we'll have a 9-hole beginner or warm-up course as well. So again, those that just want to recreate, we'll be able to cater to both user groups.
Have we considered employer leagues?
We have not from like a programming aspect yet, but those are certainly some opportunities, and we know that there's also going to be events. We've already gotten some inquiries about hosting disc golf events there, and so staff right now is working through some plans for that. And to be honest, our biggest limitation is going to be figuring out the parking and just communicating with those event right holders and managing expectations. And, we're not going to be able to do a high caliber, high level event until we can get some more substantial parking out there. It doesn't necessarily mean to have to be paved or anything. We may have to clear some areas in the future to create some more parking spaces to accommodate some bigger events. But this project was also supported by a grant, the Undiscovered SC grant, in the amount of $200,000. The whole project's a $400,000 project, and final completion is slated to be done in August. Dams and Greenway project. If you recall, we had to completely rebuild the 3 lower dams on the property. which is where all of our hiking trails kind of go around. And we plan to have these available for fishing. So we're making obviously improvements for fish habitat as well. They got a little bit behind because they ran into some unsuitable soils on one of the dams, and so but they're back on it and making progress. The dams should be completed in August, and then the top picture is where they've already started clearing for the Greenway Trail. Just a reminder, the Greenway Trail will be paved, and it's going to be just under a mile and a half from the trailhead, from the restroom, and then down. That's the connector trail, and then about a mile on the riverfront. Okay, and then that's slated to be complete in November of 2027. We're very excited about that. And two, on the Greenway project, we have a pending grant that we've applied for another LWCF grant for the southern construction portion of the Greenway Trail. So it'll be the section that will go towards the reservation. So we'll find out in October if we're awarded that. They did double the amount, so it's $1 million grant, 50-50 match. Parking, we're on Wood End now. Parking and trails construction project. We've been working on just trying to get minimal access, get some trails constructed so that the people in that community can start utilizing and recreating there on that property. So trails have been pretty much completed. They're doing some final touches there. And then the parking lot is complete as well. And last to do is we've got to get park signage. We just got the trail maps like a week ago from the contractor, so we've got to get those made, built, and then the wayfinding throughout the property. So we're targeting for opening July, August, is our hope. And then also what's going on parallel in regards to Wood End Park is we're also working on an elevated site design. So I don't know if you guys remember the concept, like the bubble concept that was done several years ago. This is basically just elevating that, getting more of an understanding of where our road layout could go, where the utilities need to be, actually programming the property. And then we'll also get out of this kind of a recommended phased approach, and some cost estimates associated with certain elements and amenities on the property. And this was something that I really had a vision for because we can't make decisions on what we don't know. And so this is where this level of planning is so important and is going to, allow us to make some informed decisions based on our funding available, utilities that may have to support certain amenities, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not actually sure the timeline of that. I would say it'd probably be closer to the fall before we'd have all that wrapped up. But the great thing is we'll be able to roll right into construction on whatever we decide. It would be something that we'd certainly bring back to this committee or council for consideration.
I know I already asked, but yes, the quicker we can get this open,
Yeah.
please.
We are working on it. We've had a couple staff members on leave and whatnot, so we've got a lot of shifting parts and people covering kind of multiple areas right now. So we're trying our best to get it done as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just in regards to that site design, I just included the amenities here that we're kind of programming on the property, and that's what the consultant is, looking at, exploring the possibilities of putting that on the property. Worth Mountain Park. I've been out there and ridden the trails, and it's absolutely beautiful. Contractor's done a great job. The parking lot is complete. That you'll see that in the top photo there. It is a large parking lot. Keep in mind, we had to make it big enough to haul equestrian trailers. So engineering was great in helping us, with that. And we have a county employee that has a horse and rides trails, and so we have an equestrian user. We have staff in the parks department that have worked at other parks that had equestrian trails. So they really spoke into this, and it's going to be premier, to be honest. So the parking lot's complete. That bottom picture there, that shows you all the different routes that folks can go and ride. We've got about 12 miles of equestrian trails and hiking trails, so we will allow hikers on these trails.
No bikes?
No bikes.
Because of the horses?
Well, and just from a safety standpoint too, they're narrow, and so if somebody's we're doing the same thing at Catawba Bend. The biking trails are biking trails, hiking trails are hiking trails, just because those bikers do sometimes travel at a high rate of speed, and you have all sorts of users hiking, and so for the safety of really both user groups, we've separated them. And it could be something that we explore down the road of establishing some dedicated biking trails there. But this was funded through a state earmark, and it was specific for equestrian trails and parking. So right now, staff, they're finalizing, tweaking and doing final walkthroughs of the trails, and then we are insourcing, installing all the signage. So likewise with Wood End, that was left out of the project to save cost. So it could be spent more on building trails, but now staff's got to build those wayfindings, and you see how many connection points. We don't want somebody to get lost out here, so we've got to have a high level of wayfinding signage. So they're working on that, getting some FF&E, and we hope to be able to open that early fall.
So in light of our budget this year and last year, I just keep thinking about ways we can potentially create more money, especially for parks. And I think about Cherokee County being next door, separated by the Broad River. And I can't help but to wonder if there could be some collaboration between York County and Cherokee County with Senator Dennis Moss, House Representative Dennis Moss and Senator Harvey Peeler over in Cherokee County. And Worth Mountain being a huge piece of property that likely it's going to be a decade or two maybe before there's enough density out there for people to physically go and support this. Maybe there could be some kind of collaboration that we could do with Cherokee County.
Yeah, and we certainly can explore those opportunities. I will say that the remaining acreage is under wildlife management area with DNR. So we have that. In order to build these trails, we had to pull that acreage out of the WMA agreement with DNR. So any other future development that we were to do on the property or what have you would be pulled out of that WMA, and then we're responsible for maintaining. So, we can certainly think through opportunities to collaborate, but knowing that we still have that relationship with DNR.
Yeah.
And there are some opportunities. DNR's contacted us about a possible shooting range that they've got funding for, that they would fully fund. So I think right now in the short term, we want to continue to maintain that relationship with DNR. I think there's a huge community, a hunting community that hunts out there. And, I met with them on several occasions, drove to their corporate offices in Florence and Columbia. And, we want to be able to continue to partner with them and meet in the middle, and again, attract different user groups to the property, be able to offer a diverse recreation opportunities.
A shooting range would be fantastic.
It would.
We met with them
Since
last.
we don't have any in York County or
Yeah.
anywhere close by.
We met with them last week, and so they're working on. They've got some other things that they need to do, and when they're ready, they're going to come back to us, and if it all comes to fruition, it could very well be something that we will have to bring to council, and we'll have to amend the current agreement. But we're certainly looking to explore again opportunities and maintain these partnerships. And with that, I think I'm finished. So do you guys have any questions?
I know the signage is holding up on these projects. I go back to over at Riverwalk and some of the other places I've been, McDowell Park, and, they don't have a whole lot of signage.
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible to get some limited openings on some of these? Just for one thing, it keeps y'all from having to be stressed trying to get this stuff done, but two, kind of to help them get semi a little bit open.
Yeah,
Just
I
to-
mean, well, at least with Woodend, I mean, we've got to order the map. So now that
Yeah.
we've just got the map, we at least need a kiosk. We got to
Mhm.
establish rules, who to call, you know, in the event of a property emergency. So I think we got a basic level of signage that we do at least need to get. And I hear you, some of the wayfinding or maps, you know, I think we want to make sure, especially on the larger properties, because people can get lost. And between Worth Mountain and really Catawba Bend, cell phone service is spotty. So we're really going above the standard to make sure that our wayfinding is, you know, good and adequate, more than adequate, so people can find their way, you know, around and no loops and can get themselves back to their vehicle.
Well, you know, if we have lost people, that gets more attention to our parks and more people to visit.
Yeah, we just don't want them to come back and say the park didn't have any signage either, so I think, but I hear what you're saying, and I think there's certainly, some things that we can do on our end, and I can certainly work with management on how to expedite getting that open.
And then for Worth Mountain, this is just an out there question, but what about setting times for when, or times on certain trails at some point where mountain bikers could ride, where hiking is disallowed or something? Anyway, just a question. You don't have to answer it, you don't have to do anything, it's just something that
Okay.
popped up in my head that said, oh, well, maybe we could have a season or
Yeah.
something, you know, whether it's a day, a week, or whatever. for
I think
certain-
I'd have to look back to make sure we wouldn't violate anything with the state earmark since it was funded for specifically
Right.
equestrian trails. But then two, I know that both user groups, they want lengthy trails. So, you know, if you give them one section, you're only gonna get a couple miles
Right.
and you'd have to just do that. So I don't know if we wanna force something that
Right.
wouldn't be of quality.
Yeah.
But it's something that we can certainly explore and
And
look
I
at.
was, when we were talking about equestrian and hiking, I was thinking they were on separate. I was looking at the colors and I was thinking, oh, they're hiking over here and
No, no,
riding
no.
over here. And
No.
so I wasn't gonna interfere with the horses, but, never mind. These
Yeah.
off the
Sorry.
wall
Yeah.
questions.
The Tia Garrison Arena, they have trails up around that property.
Uh-huh,
I used to ride them a
Okay.
lot. But, so you had equestrian trails, and then you had hiking and biking trails. And even over at the Greenway, they have trails specific for
equestrian.
but then they have hiking and biking together, and then they have a little bit of just hiking trails. So you're
Okay.
not on the trail with cyclists, but the two operate fine together. Even the thread trail that runs along the Catawba River behind Mason's Bend, that's hiking and biking. So there are people doing both every day,
Okay.
lots of people. So they know how to coexist, that's not an issue. The equestrian's different though.
Right,
You can't, I don't think, you can have bikes on an equestrian trail because it spooks the horses.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah. I don't wanna force anything either. I mean, if it
Well, I
doesn't
like
make
the
sense-
idea too,
If
actually.
it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
You want to utilize the
well, I
parks.
think even if, you know, we get additional funding through the state, through that earmark for this upcoming year to do more trails, we're gonna have to look at pulling more acreage out, because according to our contractor and even our staff, they've pretty much kind of maxed out the areas of the 200 acres that we pulled out of the WMA to do the 12 miles we have now. So regardless whether we do more equestrian or whatever, we're gonna probably have to pull more out of the WMA, that's more for us to maintain. So that's the
When you say
other thing.
maintain, what are you having to do?
Well, I mean, we're gonna want staff to ride those on occasion. I think once we get some established users out there, that helps a lot with the maintenance. But there's multiple fields in the area that we pulled out of the WMA that have been maintained historically by DNR for habitat reasons and things of that nature. And I think those are areas that we're gonna wanna continue to maintain. And they're fields, they don't have to be like finish mowed every week like you would Goat Farm or Ebenezer Park, but there's still some level of maintenance. And then if we get, again, the additional $750,000 in this upcoming budget to add more trails, it was also to add a restroom building there. So then you got a level of some maintenance because we need to clean a restroom
Yeah.
periodically.
So-
It's not gonna take a lot of time, but it does, no matter what you build, if you want it to be of good quality and you want people to provide good comments and good feedback and attract other users, you're gonna wanna have a level of maintenance that's, you know.
So let me ask this question. Has the county looked into any type of AI-generated grass cutting equipment in certain areas where it's applicable?
I suppose I'd have to talk to fleet maintenance. I know we're slowly getting into the AI realm through IT. You know, IT wants to be careful that, so that we have a platform that is used properly for a local government setting, but I can certainly ask that question.
Yeah, because if we're talking about maintenance, golf courses even have AI-generated lawnmowers now. They're
Well,
cutting grass while
and
you're
there's a
mowing.
number of vendors that, especially at the National Parks Conference, they have vendors that sell those. But they are very expensive.
Yeah, but you offset
You would
the
say,
cost.
that's right, you would,
Yeah.
but sometimes
They
it's,
cut constantly
Yeah.
and charge on their own, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's the first question. Second question is, since it's equestrian, this park right now is mostly for equestrian use.
Mhm.
Have we thought about maybe investing in barns where people could keep their horses there and pay the county, pay the Parks Foundation $800 a month? Because usually if you're taking care of your own horse, that's about what you pay a month. And then they go out and eat an acre of grass for you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You need an acre per horse.
Yeah, well, that, or, and staff's really, we've contemplated this too, on do we put an RFP out for these fields for hay? That's the other thing that we have tossed around. I don't know that we've tossed around the idea of housing the horses, because DNR is actually operating out of the barn right now. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure if it's still going on, but Public Works was also using that as a spot for any animals that they, what's the proper terminology?
They house. their
Yeah,
animal
from,
control.
yeah,
Yeah.
your larger animals, they do house them
Did you know that,
there.
Andy?
Did they house animals out there?
That we pick up?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're out there.
Well, I mean, if we take over the fields and and they're only maintaining them really for the hunting, we just let them grow up and be whatever.
Depends. I hadn't been out there to Worth.
I mean, some of the fields are, I mean, people can recreate. You know, if they wanted to have a picnic, or if they want to, some of the fields are open space. If they want to go out there and throw a frisbee or fly a kite, or, you know, so there is still, again, it's, you know, we envision and we want to have those spaces maintained. One of the top 5 elements in our public input engagement that we had with the Clemson study was open space, open green space.
Right.
So, you know, that's the other thing we're trying to, you know, in the strategic plan is look at those recommendations and try to satisfy them. And so that's what we're trying to do with our means and current resources.
I just said something incorrectly a minute ago. It's around $800. If we had staff out there that would help take care of the horses, it's about $400 a month if you take care of your horse yourself. So you're just leasing the land
Mhm.
and the horses eating the grass.
Yeah.
Make sure we use the best data we have to make sure we're not taking away a high-use area to add a lower used. I don't know how much
Good point.
the hunting, you know, takes out of that area, but, you know, if we have, I don't know, 10,000 people per year to go out there to hunt, and we take that area away and we get 2,000 horses, you know.
Sure. Now, I will say, we worked like really well with DNR and our representative there, and I, you know, again, went and met with his boss in Florence, and we wanted to take out the property that was least impacted to the hunters. You know, so, because again, I think they were truthfully in fear that they were gonna lose the whole property altogether to hunt. And that's not what our intent was. In the short term, we can't develop it into the master plan
Right.
that's been approved. You know, we've got to establish funding for that. That's going to take years. So they help us maintain the property. So I want to continue to have that relationship and that partnership, and again, allow those hunters. They use primarily the back part of that property anyway. So we pulled out the 200 acres on the frontage road.
But, you know, we've already.
But to your
talked about
point, we
get to
can
the
certainly
next
keep-
phase or the next phase,
Sure,
and
sure.
and they're gonna feel like they're slowly being eaten
Yeah.
away.
Well, and I mean, they do know that we developed a master plan. They do realize that there could come a day that, you know, the property is developed into a full county park. They realize that. And, you know, they'll tackle that when that day comes, but in the short term, that's nowhere in sight. So, again, we just want to maintain those relationships and provide the opportunities for both user groups.
Okay.
So,
Well, I appreciate all your hard work, everything that your staff does, all the training, all the parks are fantastic. All of them that I go to, they're clean, they're well-kept. I don't have any complaints about them, and I just
I appreciate
thank you
that.
so much, and thank your staff for everything they do.
I appreciate that, and I will pass that on. I will say that the maintenance staff that you guys approved for us to have to in-source Allison Creek and Ebenezer Park, it made a huge difference in us being able to do the things that the contractor wouldn't do. So we're really able to they're putting their personal touches in our parks, and they're more maintained than they ever were. We're able to get into the details, and so the parks are in great shape. And it's because of that staff and you guys approving those staff for us to be able to in-source that.
Yeah, the only thing I ran into, and this is just way in the future thing to think of, is I missed the closing gate at Allison Creek by like 5 minutes. And so when I got there, the gate was closed, and I had the boat, and there was nowhere to turn around.
Oh,
You can't
gosh.
get through the gate.
Oh, my God.
So just keep that in mind in the future.
Yeah.
So I had to, about a 20-point turn and back up the walking trail, the little gravel trail to get, luckily I had the small boat, but to get turned around.
Of closing time, you missed it, or the ramps closing?
No, I missed the part, it closed, I think, at 8, and I got there at 8:05. I was really hoping to get
Yeah.
there, and I got in there, and it was too late, and so I had to turn around at the gate. Because I missed the sign up front. I thought it was open a little bit later, and I missed the sign in the front, because it was little and.
You know that we do offer a night access card
Yeah, but I
for
don't
those.
have it.
Do what?
I don't have it.
Well,
Yeah, I know, but.
As a
but-
council member,
but
maybe we should
I
have
know,
one.
but there was, I was rushing, I had come back from the beach, I needed to drop it
Fringe
into the
benefit.
lake real quick, and I got down there, missed the times, totally messed them up, and got to the gate
Yeah.
with it shut, with nowhere to turn around, so.
Before we adjourn, I will say, I was impressed when I went out to Catawba Bend, what all the staff had done independent of having to do it. They chose to do it. They stepped up and all the, filling in over 2,000 holes where the trees were and everything they did. And I can only imagine that because they've done that, they feel a sense of ownership and pride in that property, which
They do.
probably is going to keep them there for a while, quite frankly.
it very much does, and truthfully, all of our staff have made their mark in our parks,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of passionate people, and we've been able to attract some great employees to our department, and so
I can see that.
couldn't be prouder of them.
That's good.
That's great.
That comes from leadership, so
right.
take that as a compliment that they want to stay with you for your leadership of them, so.
Thank you, I
Applies
appreciate
to you too as well, Tom.
Yep.
Oh, well, no, she's the star of the park show. I mean, I concur completely, point of privilege, Worth Mountain is the only park I haven't visited yet in the time I've been here, but every time I've had engagement with the staff, a gate attendant, a maintenance tech, across the board, everybody is super friendly, and the word I hear frequently from Catherine is, she wants to make every visit an experience.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, she's succeeding.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep,
I agree.
you're doing a great
Great
job. You let her do her stuff and don't interfere, and that lets her bloom, so
Sign of a
thank
good
you,
leader.
thank you all. All right,
Well,
there's,
that's 30.
we got anything else?
That was 30 minutes, right?
Nothing? All right, well,
Dog minutes.
Motion to adjourn.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.